Hi, Kate from Kate&Barrel Designs here. I am going to be starting a project on these UGG boots that you can tell already have some paint on them. These are an old pair that I've had kicking around. They're definitely worn. And I haven't worn them in a while because they've got paint on them and they're all kind of gunky looking. And yeah, I wear them in the studio and, you know, they got messy and it's just what happens sometimes. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to show a twist on a finish that's been super popular that I've used now on 2 pieces of furniture that people have been asking kind of how do I do it. So I thought this would be a great twist. On the furniture, I do use salt wash. I'm not gonna use salt wash on my boots. I'm gonna stay away from the salt wash on my boots, I think. However, I am still gonna, I think, achieve the same look. So I'm excited to try it. So you guys get to kind of experiment and see what it looks like with me. So yeah, and it's a great way to kind of hopefully recycle those boots that have kind of become a little dingy and maybe you don't want to wear out as much anymore and create them into something new. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. First color I'm gonna use is, it's a native clay. It's a special release color. It's super pretty. It's a great base for what I'm doing. So it's kind of like a, I don't know, like a dingy cranberry almost. I don't really even know how to explain it. But it's just a really great color. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply the paint. Helps if I move the jar. And I'm just using a 1-inch brush. Doesn't really matter what brush you guys want to use. I'm just gonna go ahead, and I stuffed this with paper. Number 1, to kind of give the boot a shape back to it so it's not so floppy. And number 2, also to make sure I don't miss any spots, right? Because if it's all crinkled over, I could possibly miss some spots. I might have wanted to tape this off, I think. But hey, I'm gonna go with it. We'll paint this part too. Why not? We're gonna paint them. Let's paint them all. I'm not using a ton of paint. Just kind of getting in there. And it really does soak up. Remember, this is the base layer. So I'm gonna go ahead, get these base layers done. And you can see all the paint up here too. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is gonna have lots of different colors on it. So again, it's just kind of getting us started. Fabric painting is definitely different than your typical, I'm putting this on furniture. Definitely not the first person to paint my UGG boots. I've seen people do kind of different fun stuff with them before. I just want to try a particular technique. And again, these are old. These aren't like a brand new pair of boots. I think these have seen, what, 5, 6, 7 seasons with me. So they've gone through a lot. So there's the first one. I'll kind of show you. So see, I didn't get every single spot, but that's okay. Because again, I'm kind of just getting down the first layer. So it's not too bad. Plus again, it's my base layer and I'm not using a ton of paint. It's a big thing. You kind of have to remember Number one, you don't want to load it up and make it really heavy. It's going to take forever to dry, but also you don't need to. The coverage is so amazing with the pigmentation, and you're going to be layering. So taking your time, not feeling like you have to get absolute full coverage. Really don't have a lot of paint going on here. So there, first color. I'm gonna go back to the original boot that I started with and let this one kind of sit and dry a little more since I adjusted it. I'm gonna set this aside for a second. I might grab my mixing mat. I'm gonna go ahead and put in some iron oxide now. So iron oxide is kind of this like rusty looking color. It's really pretty. If you think kind of like, I think Utah clay, things like that, that's kind of what you're getting out of this. And I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of, again, grab a towel. It's gonna be a little bit more of a dry brush technique. It's very subtle, but it adds that kind of extra depth to it. Next color I'm going to use is Thunderstruck. This is kind of your key color, to be honest. It brings everything together. And once you start glazing, it really brings in the glaze colors, like unbelievably. You can definitely tell the shimmer kind of depth that this brings. This is one of my new favorite colors, I think, from the release. So let's see, the Native Clay and the Thunderstruck were special releases. Just the Thunderstruck is just, it's so fun to play with this color. And it just creates kind of just such a dimensional look when you bring it together with the Native Clay and the iron oxide. The depth is just to die for. Okay, I'm gonna get this one set aside. Let me get down here though. Let me get down here with some heavy Thunderstruck actually. There. I'm gonna let that one sit over here for a second. I'm gonna grab this because I wanna use the Native Clay on it. And they're still feeling nice and soft. So that's the other thing is when you do fabric, if that softness doesn't maintain, there's some things you can do for sure. So you can definitely get the softness back by sanding and things like that to create that softness again. However, if you don't go heavy on your paint, which we're not here, we're just doing some really nice light dry brushing without going heavy, that allows that softness to kind of maintain itself as well. The crinkle of the boot is so nice too, because it just adds extra texture for you, which is so awesome. All right. So there you go. They kind of look like a hot mess. It's okay. This one's drying a little bit. It's still wet. I can still feel the wetness on it, but not super bad. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in a little bit of earth too, which is another release. It's really nice chocolatey kind of, not really chocolate, but so we have a chocolate in the line, and this is not quite like a chocolate. But again, adding some of that dimension. I'm gonna just dab it on. Notice I'm also doing a little, almost went into the wrong one. I'm also kind of rubbing in, almost like a little blend. I'm not a big makeup person, but I watch people put on like makeup. Like I find that mesmerizing, the makeup things when people put that on. And really like there's a definite association between kind of blending your foundation and all that stuff and actual like blending of colors, right? When you're painting, kind of if you liken it to that to a certain extent, kind of helps a little bit. I'm just gonna go ahead and add in a little bit more of the native clay. This is just creating the foundation. Do some iron oxide. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on some more native clay on this. And this is just left over from the brush. I'm not adding anything different. Oh, I need to get some earth on this one. Yes, the earth, the earth, the earth. So let's add that in. So again, it's not about like a specific way or an absolute rhyme or reason. These boots are not gonna look exactly the same either. So that's gonna be something where you kind of have to go, okay, I'm gonna be wearing two shoes and they're gonna be really similar, but they're not gonna be the same because all the paint's gonna be different on it. So you really have to think about kind of how that's gonna look and if you can be okay with that, right? So again, just kind of going in. Just adding a little different dimension with the earth. The earth isn't a super dramatic color. I'm gonna go ahead, get some native, sorry, some iron oxide in there. I might go a little heavier because we really want to get in here. So notice sometimes I use like long strokes, right? And sometimes I kind of like I'm stippling or stenciling. So it just gives it a different textury kind of look and feel, right? And then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add back in some Thunderstruck. bring those colors together again. Okay, so just dried that one really quick. So it's just a little drier, which I like. So let's go ahead and put in just like a little bit left of this. The gold is a little goopy, but I'm okay with it, and I can still use that. Or sorry, gold, not silver. So this is Mercury. I'm on the last leg of my Mercury. So I'm just dry brushing the Mercury from the top down for the most part. And then I'm going to get right here on the top and dry brush across. There we go. Okay. So now I want to take some gold dust. This is the gold dust. Grab another brush again. And you go a little heavier on the gold, bringing it through, kind of sideways a little bit instead of, so more vertical than horizontal. Like that. So it kind of creates like a bigger, and I'm going to do the same thing. Now I've got my gold and my silver on there. I know, it gets shiny a little bit, really shines it up. And then this is the Moonstone glaze, which I absolutely love. The Moonstone, which looks just like a plain white, right? Or a clear almost. And it goes almost clear on. Before I do that though, I'm actually gonna do the Verdigris. So, I'm sorry, my cans look so disgusting. That's the Verdigris. So, I'm actually gonna go ahead and use this brush. Just put, this is gonna add some dramatic dimension. So this boot has the Mercury and the gold dust. This one doesn't have any, and look at the difference. That's how big of a difference this makes. And I just used a tiny little dollop of it, and it just sets this off beyond belief. It's crazy how much it sets it off. So I'm actually, before I do any of the Moonstone and stuff like that, I'm gonna go back through and add in a little bit of the iron oxide, and that's just gonna mellow this out, bring it back down a little bit. And then I'm probably gonna go through again and add in some more Thunderstruck. The Thunderstruck and the Mercury play so, or sorry, the Thunderstruck and the Moonstone are gonna play so nicely together. And again, this is about just kind of playing and getting the look and feel that is going to work for you and what you want. So there's the copper glaze, which is super pretty. And then there's the copper paint, which is super pretty. I just happen to have this open, so I'm going to use that. So that's what I'm going to roll with. So this is the copper I'm going to use. And I'm just going to use my F30 for this one. So that copper just took over, which is okay, because again, it's about layering, right? So I'm going to go back, Thunderstruck. I'm going to go back with my Verdigris. The copper and the Verdigris play so lovely together. Let's put in, I'm going to put some more silver actually too. Okay, I'm going to do some gold. Really light. Really want to do, I'm gonna use this. It's a little wider. I'm gonna wipe this down. And I'm just gonna And now I'm going to go and take some copper, but I'm not going to put any more on my brush because there's really no need to put any more on. And just kind of bring that in a little more with the Verdigris. All right, so we're gonna leave this one for now. I got a little ahead of myself by pulling out the Moonstone. So let's go ahead and do this one. See if I can remember everything I did. Because that's when we run into problems. Not really problems, but that's how things turn different, which is fine. So silver. Again, this is that Mercury. You could use, if you have silver glaze, you could use the silver glaze. It kind of adds that like base iridescence. This Mercury, like I said, is a little clumpy, but it still works. So big thing with this is just kind of like light, swishy Nothing super crazy with your strokes. Really, the paint, there's not a lot of paint that's being put on the brush. I load and then I kind of unload, right? So you're doing that. That one went a little heavy. It's okay though. Remember, we're layering. Okay, let's go with some copper. So little. So little. Whoop. Went a little too heavy there. Forgot to wipe off. It's all right. Okay, let's add in some Thunderstruck again. Oop. Okay. Verdigris. So there's a little more gold in this one. So I'm gonna go over with the gold and a little more. So let's see, if I try to match these up, see they're kind of two different colors right now. So let's add a little more gold to this. So we kind of are less leaning copper and a little more with the gold, just so we kind of have the same. And I'm actually gonna just grab this one's gotten a little heavy. This is what happens when you use a multitude of colors. There we go. So move this over here, this over here, move these over here. And then let's grab some verdigris. Okay. Looking a little closer now, definitely, in look and feel. So that's good. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead, set this stuff aside. Let's put this and this for now. Put the Thunderstruck over here. This and that. And these over here. Iron oxide. There we go. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick air dry on these. I'm just kind of smushing them around. They feel soft, so they're still soft, but they feel a little like leathery, more like smooth leather than like the softy kind of leather that you would typically get from your Uggs. So it's definitely a different feel than your typical Ugg now, right? But again, this is a completely, can't buy these at the store, right? So totally different look and feel from any other Ugg. that you've probably come across. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put some Moonstone. When I say I'm gonna put some Moonstone, I put a decent amount of Moonstone on here. So yeah, the Moonstone just kind of takes over, okay? And it is gonna change the color rendering quite a bit for the most part on this. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed it up a little. So definitely look at the difference between this boot and this boot now. Moonstone, no Moonstone. It brings out kind of more of the silver tones, which is really, really pretty. So next, you can't forget the Chameleon. So it's kind of a chameleon type color. So I'm gonna go ahead and just use my R14. I'm gonna bring that everywhere too. Just a full covering. This one I go a little lighter. I didn't add any more to this brush. Thunderstruck. Didn't add anything else to the brush. And let's bring in some iron oxide. I am going to add to this one. I wish the camera would pick up all the different tones that are in here. Someday. Because it's just so pretty. I'm going to sit on this one and let's see. I might want to add in some more to it. I'm just not sure yet. I'm going to go ahead and do the Moonstone on this one. So there's the Moonstone on there, and then I'm going to add the Chameleon. Okay, so if I put them side by side, I'm thinking this has more Moonstone and way heavier on this one possibly than on this one. However, I'm gonna add a little more, I think, Thunderstruck to each one of them. I personally really like the purpley. If you like more of like the coppery, then obviously You're gonna add more copper, things like that, right? I covered the little UGG, by the way, in the back. So now you can see that. I'm gonna have to do a little touch up right there. That's okay. Okay, so I went ahead and cold dried them. They're still damp, right? So I'm gonna let them do their thing, dry for probably overnight. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start doing some sealing and some waxing and things like that. And who knows, after these are completely dry, I might wanna go back and add a few more details. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like maybe I want to add some more verdigris, to be honest. And now that I'm thinking about it, this is what I do all the time. I just take, yeah, a little on my finger. You can just add like a few more accents with my finger, which is kind of fun. Makes it a little deeper too. Not sure if you guys can see these. Just going in, do you see that? Just kind of like, so I'm using the creasing that's already started because they're so worn, right? So they have great creasing, especially with being wet, right, and painted. So the creasing's there. So I can kind of go in and use that creasing to help kind of guide where I want some of this accenting to go. There. And then it's a little more sporadic. So let me come back to this one. Okay, I'm gonna let them dry. I'm gonna let it go. And I'm gonna wash all my brushes and I will be back once this is all ready and dry for the next step. Okay. Okay, we are back. So, boots are dry. Good to go. Okay, this is what they look like so far. I am really wanting to bring in a little bit more of the Thunderstruck here, kind of on the base, and then I want more of the copper and the verdigris down kind of on the top part of the boot. So I'm gonna go back in and do some more layers. Again, it's a layering process, right? And it's also based on kind of how you want it to look at the end. I have my mister, so I'm gonna go ahead and mist right here on the bottom of the boot. Grab my Thunderstruck, just right here. And I'm also gonna grab a little bit of that iron oxide, I think, as I put in some of the Thunderstruck and kind of blend the two of them together as I do this. So I'm really just gonna use a light amount. Just do a little wipe off. I'm gonna move one boot over here actually, so it's out of the way. And then that out of the way. So I really wanna bring in more of that Thunderstruck. So this is coming up more. It's a thin layer. You can kind of see the color change, right? Let's go ahead and bring it around on the back as well. I didn't cover the UGG thing back up, so I'm trying to be careful to not cover that. It's definitely different working with the shape of a boot versus the shape of like a drawer. I've gotten a lot of it off, so I'm gonna go ahead and kind of rub in a little more. So you can kind of hopefully see that it's a little more Thunderstruck now than, let's say, this one, right? I'm gonna add, actually, I'm gonna let that dry for a second. Same thing with this one. Okay, so there we go. All right, cool. Let's do this. I'm gonna take chip brush, put some Verdigris on there, wipe off on my paper towel down here, and I mean wipe off. And then chip brush for some copper. And I don't want a lot. Remember, this copper is intense, right? So let's do a big wipe off. And let's come through really light. coming across the top of the boot, just a smidge. Okay. And then I'm gonna do a little bit of gold to add a little brightness to it. Again, nothing super heavy. Wipe off. I'm just doing light, again, just adding a little extra shimmer. So, and let's add a little bit to down here on the tips, front of the boot, just a smidge. There we go. I like that. So there you can see, you got a little more gold tones in there, still have a ton of copper, right? And then I think what I'd like to do, again, I've gone really light. There's not much dampness to this at all, right? Because most of the stuff that I've been doing is dry brushing. But I would like to do, I think I'm gonna do a little more of the iron oxide. And I just wanna kind of bring it kind of up in here a little bit. Just around kind of where I finger painted. Just kind of breaks it up a little bit. It's very subtle. Okay. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit, really thin layer of Moonstone. There you go. Really thin layer. Wipe off. And I'm kind of placing the Moonstone where the Thunderstruck mostly is. And then I'm gonna let that sit for a second. I'm gonna come back to this one and do the same thing. Hopefully I can remember what I did now. Ay, ay, ay. Let's add a little more. Okay, so let's bring in the Verdigris again. Really light. I'm using the texture to help. There's a lot of texture now going on. Okay, so lots of texture going on there. And then copper. a little. I'll do a wipe off, and then just a nice light. There we go. Just a little bit. Don't go crazy, don't go crazy. Sometimes less is more. A little gold. So I want to add a little of that gold shimmer. And then a little gold, tiny little bit. Whatever's like left over on my brush, right? It just brings that texture out. Super fun. Okay, and then I went back in some of this iron oxide a little bit. I'm gonna go in, kind of get around some of the spots. It's really just like, I wish the video would pick up all the different colors. I feel like it just doesn't. So crazy. The different colors that are in there. So fun. Okay, so I'm gonna do a really thin layer like I did, right? Moonstone. Super thin. Is put, I'm gonna put a little bit of Chameleon on this top part right here. Wipe off. I'm just doing the top part. It would be super fun. I'm wondering if I should do this bottom part in the copper. Let it be like a little heavy in some spots. There. Very cool. I like that. I love the Thunderstruck right here too. So pretty. These colors just work so well together. It's crazy. And the Moonstone just brings out the shimmer even more in the Thunderstruck. Okay, Chameleon. There we go. Let that dry. How's this one? Okay, I'm gonna close these up really quick. Let's see, did I do, so I did the copper bottom on that one. I didn't do the copper bottom on this one. So I didn't close the copper yet. So let's do a little bit of a copper bottom along here. There we go. Oops. Got a little bit under the bottom right there. Wipe that. There you go. Okay. Take this, put those there, that there, close this up. All right, let's dry this really quick. Okay, so final step, let's seal it. And I let my husband use my palm brush. Sorry, we can use this. We're gonna seal with clear wax. So I'm sealing with wax because number one, I don't want to seal with an acrylic because I want the shoe to be able to still move. Granted, is it the most protective? No. The wax isn't going to be like a super hard tabletop kind of finish. However, with the boot, I'm not going to go traipsing through mud and things like that. This is more of kind of like a fashion boot, right? You wouldn't do that with a regular pair of Uggs. You just destroy them, even with putting protectant on them, right? So sealing them with the wax is going to allow for the movability. It's going to allow for this to continue to kind of move, but also be sealed at the same time. So that's why I'm going to go with the wax. I've sealed furniture with wax, like painted furniture with wax, and it's held up amazingly well. I have a chair in my living room that my husband actually converted to his office chair for a while during COVID. And it worked great. And there's been zero issues with it. And it kind of just keeps that leather feel. So I'm going to go ahead and find my wax. Okay, so this is clear. This is the natural clear furniture wax from Wiseowl. I have a huge container of it because I use a lot of it. It usually comes in like 8-ounce tins. I'll show you. So this 8-ounce tin, believe it or not, goes super, super far. If you've used the salve, it's the same size as our 8-ounce salve. It's awesome. It's different from other waxes. It's not super hard to work with. You don't have to do like an immediate wipe off to make sure you're not like getting sticky or anything like that. It's really easy to play with. It works really, really well. I like it. It's one of my favorites and adds nice protection. So I just put a little on the brush. This is a 1.5-inch round brush. Just really have to put one coat. I'm not going to worry about putting more than one coat on here. So let that soak in for a little bit, and then I'll do a wipe off after I finish this boot. So again, just put a tiny little bit, not a ton. Rub it in there. There you have it. I am super excited about how these turned out. Absolutely love them. It is definitely that finish on the dresser, just recreated on a pair of boots. So fun and different. These are definitely gonna steal the show. I am excited to wear them again and not be kind of embarrassed about their gookiness. So super excited about that. I'm gonna grab this kind of grungy tee and do a quick kind of wipe off of any excess. You could seal with salve too if you wanted to. It gives it a nice smell for a little while too. There you go. I know this was a long tutorial. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me on it. I hope that it kind of gave you some creative ideas of what you can repurpose some of your things in your closet and how you can do that, but also working with these wonderful, beautiful colors and how you can kind of create your own kind of like, I don't know, ethereal, rocky, Moab-y finish. So please hit that like and subscribe button. I would absolutely love it for you to do that. And questions, comments, just post below. Thanks so much. Bye.